Hi, this is Matthew starting a new album review series on the albums of Chicago. Yeah, they have lots of interesting things. I'm going to do this one a little differently because since Chicago pretty much always sequences their albums with numbers and the Roman numerals, instead of where I would put compilations and live albums with before and after other albums, nope, not this time. Since they're all numbered, I'm going to do reviews on each one individually because that way the numbers will match up. Because otherwise you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 is alive, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is the greatest hits, for example, and if I don't do them, the numbers aren't going to work. So I will have to do them individually this time since they are differently sequenced from other bands, but it's good stuff. This one we go back into 1969. This was late enough. I don't think any mono was ever produced that I know of anyway. I could be wrong, so they've not issued them that way. So I don't know if any mono was made of these things. It was late enough where most things were stereo for the most part. They started in Chicago, Illinois in 1967 as The Big Thing, and then they got a guy to sign. They signed a manager guy. He worked for Columbia Records. Of course, now everything by them is owned by Rhino. They've got their own catalog back, and they go through Rhino for distribution, remastering, all that things. So Rhino makes good stuff. This was through Columbia at the time. They changed the name to the Chicago Transit Authority, which did give them problems because they were actually sued by said Transit Authority in Chicago, which then they shortened the name to Chicago in the next one. But yeah, I will number this one as Chicago 1 and then put the name next to it of the because it was a self-titled technically. I will put probably Chicago row number 1 with the name of that album name with the full band name, and I'll go from there. But yeah, unknown band, so much talent in this band, it's ridiculous. I'll probably geek out on the horns since I played horns, and all the instrumentation is so great. So they did shorten it to Chicago after this point. Lots of good stuff that they did. Lots of jazz and rock and roll influences and other stuff. Classical, R&B for sure. Great stuff. Can't say enough about it. Yeah, they somehow convinced them to let them make a double album, which is incredible for a band no one's ever heard of at this point. They had to take a royalty cut to do it, but they did, and it paid off. It's only 12 songs, but they are so long that it is a double album. I'm curious to see where that breaks down, because I don't know. I've only ever seen it on one CD, so I don't own this one. I have some of the later work. I don't have any of the older. I've heard the first few albums before, but not all of them. I do like this one a lot. So much going on. I could just imagine. I mean, the album stages I know played this. Took a while for it to get into the top 40. It didn't get there, I think, until 71. And this is in 69. It spent weeks and weeks on the chart. It is now forever preserved in the Library of Congress's, where they have significant recordings. It's in that bunch of recordings and movies and stuff that are culturally significant. It's there, and it's as of last year in 25 they did this apparently. But it's on the list of the 1,000 albums to listen to before you die, which I wonder how many I've heard on that list. I'll have to go find that list and see. I bet there's a lot I have not heard, but I bet there's a bunch that I have. But yeah, we will see what they do. How this breaks down. Who's at the band? You'll know one guy, Peter Cetera, who did a lot of stuff on his own later, but he starts here. They got him. They were all in other bands, and they came together, and then eventually they got Cetera. He joined, I think, later. Actually, before the band, signed and everything. They joined up. He joined up with them and everything. So that's awesome. Well, show you all the tracks. You'll know there will be some singles from this. You'll see them, of course. Just some really nice musicianship going on. It's awesome. I'll mention track links if they're longer than like 3 or 4 minutes, but I know some of them I think are on here. We'll go with Chicago Transit Authority. We start with on side 1. We start with something just called Introduction. Terry Kath, who is the guitarist, he wrote it. He sings it. Oh, it's 6:35. Okay, we'll start at the beginning here, just because I'm curious to know this breakdown. And then we have. Does anybody really know what time it is? That's the first one they recorded, apparently, according to Wikipedia. Great song. That's written by the keyboardist Robert Lamb. I think plays trumpet too. Robert Lamb sings it. That's 4:35. And then Beginnings, which is great, another single. Robert Lamb wrote it. He sings it again. It is a whopping 7:54. There's some great improvisation. Improvisational band, being jazz musicians and stuff. Yeah, good stuff. That is side 1. Side 2 then goes with question 67-68. That was also a single. Robert Lamb does write that one. Peter Cetera and Robert Lamb sing it. 503. First, one of the few albums that Cetera didn't write anything for. This one. And then we have Listen. Robert Lamb wrote it and he sings it. It is 3:22, so it's one of the shorter ones, I think, on this album. Poem 58 is next. Robert Lamb wrote that one. He sings it. It is 8 minutes and 35 seconds long. Then we jump to side 3, or the next record that you would pull out of your sleeve. And we then go to Freeform Guitar. It is literally written by Terry Kath. It's an instrumental. It is him channeling Jimi Hendrix on his electric guitar, which they just plugged uses. No pedals, just him on his amp, totally improvised, nobody else. It's him doing his Hendrix thing, and apparently in their lives, early before I guess they got big, Jimi Hendrix even told them that, hey, your guitarist is better than me. So that's saying something coming from Jimi Hendrix, who was incredible. But he's I think, a very underrated guitarist. Totally doing his Jimi Hendrix thing. Lots of distortion and stuff going on in it. Very amazing. It is 6:47. That's how long the song is. And then we go to South California Purples, which is awesome. Robert Lamb wrote it. He sings it again. It's 6:11. And then I'm a Man, which I believe is a cover. Yeah, Steve Winwood and Jimmy Miller. I think the Steve Winwood group did this one originally. Of course, Steve Winwood, he was in that. He was in Traffic. He does his own solo stuff. Really, really cool guy. It runs at a whopping... Robert Lamb, Cetera, and Kath all sing it. It is 7:43. And then side 4, or the B-side, or side 2 of this one. Then goes to Prologue, August 20th, 1968. It's Life in the Democratic Convention. This is just kind of protesters saying the whole world is watching, basically. I guess their manager, James William Gershio, is credited for this one. I don't know if he recorded it or what, but it's just kind of that kind of recording going on. And then we jump to, it's only 58 seconds, it's very short. And then we jump to Sunday, August 29th, 1968, which is the Democrat Convention and all the things that were happening in the country and the world, and just kind of the violence and horrible things that were happening. Written by James Paco, their trombonist, and Robert Lamb. Robert Lamb and Peter Cetera sing that one. It is 4:11. And then we jump to Liberation is the last track. James Pankow, the trombonist, wrote that one. Kath sings it, and it clocks in at 14 minutes and 38 seconds long. Yeah, it's a lot of improvised stuff. There's some free jazz in it, which is just jazz with no structure. There's words, there's jam stuff, there's like some slower stuff. More melodic things in it. Yeah, just really cool stuff. The album is a whopping 76 minutes and 32 seconds, or I think it's an hour and 17 minutes on Apple Music. Same thing, but that's the actual length. So you can totally put that on one disc now. With the 78-minute CDs, you could put it on one disc. Rich Rhino did later. I don't know if it was ever into CD form. I don't know. I've never actually seen it on disc. I mean, it was in the stores. I never bought it. Let's clarify. Never bought it. I don't have it on vinyl either. Unfortunately, someday I need to go find all of their albums on vinyl that I can. I have a couple, technically. Who we have on here? We have Peter Cetera, bass lead and backing vocals. Terry Kath guitars, lead and backing vocals. Robert Lamb keyboards, lead and backing vocals. Lee, what is his name? Lee, and then is Loughnan. Loughnan, claves and trumpet and backing vocals. He's the main trumpet player. James Pankow on trombone and cowbell. Yeah, and when there's percussion stuff going on, and I guess when they weren't playing their instruments, some people were like doing that on some tracks, which is kind of cool. Lots of improv going on. Walter Perazzator, saxophone and tambourine and backing vocals. Danny Serafin, drums and percussion. And yeah, that is the band for quite a number of years. I know a few of these guys I saw in concert. I think Robert Lamb was there. James Paco was, I think, still in it. I think Perazzator was in it still. And Loughnan, I think, has always been in it. So some have retired just due to bad health and things, but they're still band members. But yeah, a lot of these guys are still in the band to this day, because a lot have come and gone, but there are your hardcore members you will see all the way through. Our production guys are James William Garcia, producer and original liner notes. That was I think their manager guy. Fred Catero, engineer. Nick Fascino, artwork. Our 2002 reissue stuff when they remastered it with Rhino. Lee Loughnan, A&R and project supervisor, so our Mr. Trumpet player. David McLeese, A&R supervisor. Gary Peterson, A&R supervisor. Mike Engstrom, project manager. April Millick, project assistant. Bella Neal, project assistant. Ingrid K. Olson, project assistant. Roger Perry, project assistant also. Steve Willard, also the same thing I just mentioned. Jeff Matchett, audio supervisor. Corey Fry, editorial supervisor. I think there's like a book. Maybe there's like some extra stuff at the. I think there's probably stuff about the album and stuff. I'm not sure. I've never seen it on. It's probably a thicker book than you would have seen originally. Stephen Sheen, editorial research. Yeah, there was probably an article in the book, in the liner notes. David Donnelly remastered it. Hugh Brown, photography. Maria Villa art direction and design. David Wild liner notes. And Apple Music also has a remixed version. I really don't like the way that sounds, most of it anyway. I prefer the one, just the regular remastered edition that they have. I know it's surround. I was using surround, but just things are either kind of buried or they're kind of off in the distance, and I don't know. I have AirPods in. I've got all those things enabled. It just doesn't sound good to me, and there's like almost sound like tape drops in it. It's just, I don't know, it sounded weird to my ears anyway. But I do check them just to see how they sound. I just don't like a lot of remixes. I like the Giles Martin Beatles ones, but I don't know why. They're just, something's done differently with other people's remixes. I just don't like what they're doing for some reason. My ears just aren't a fan. I did check it though. But I do like on even the remix and the regular one, there's a piano at the beginning of Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is, which is not on the single version. None of those are included on this one. But you can hear the piano pedals. Like it's hitting the pedal playing. Whoever's playing that. I don't think it says, nobody's on piano. It doesn't say who's on piano, I don't think. So I don't know who that was, but... Did I miss anything? Make sure I didn't miss anybody playing. I must have been Robert Lamb then, probably. He must have gotten onto it sounded like a regular piano to me, so. Must have been Robert Lamb getting on the piano to play that. But yeah, you can hear the piano pedals. Doesn't sound like a keyboard. It sounds like a real piano. It could be a keyboard, but it sure as heck sounds like a real piano to me. But yeah, really strong debut. I just would love to have been somebody hearing this for the first time in 1969, not really ever hearing this Mander. He did help with Blood, Sweat, and Tears' second album, which did well the same year. But theirs took longer to do anything, even though it's the same kind of style in a way. It's very different, much harder than Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I love Blood, Sweat, and Tears, who I've also seen, but nobody original was there. It was all like, it was Bo Bice from American Idol, who was doing a David Clayton Thomas persona with, there's some kind of like music academy that they use, and everybody in that band is from this academy, and it's like part of how they like learn how to play instruments better and to be a band and stuff. It's some kind of music academy. So it's all these really, really ridiculously talented people from that academy on all the instruments. It was really awesome. I was very impressed by that. I would like to have heard them play longer, honestly. It was wonderful. He did a good David Clayton Thomas. He even talked to me in that persona. I think I went and said hi to them. It was very weird hearing him sing in that persona, but he did a good job. Yeah, but a solid debut. Apparently they were supposed to be at Woodstock, and they got stuck at the airport, but Phil Graham, who managed the Fillmore, who I guess booked them through that or something, he booked Santana instead. So, no Chicago, but Santana. I can just imagine that set at Woodstock. That would have been, from this album, that would have just been incredible. And I think the crowd would have eaten it up pretty much. But there's an Island Man show the next year in England, which I'll mention in a later box set, but it is out there, but not yet. They played it. It wasn't released yet, so I'm not going to talk about it yet. It's on a different box set of other live material, which I do have, and I didn't even know they played there until I looked at Apple Music before I was buying the thing. It was coming to me, and I hadn't seen the track listing. I'm like, what the? Yeah, I'm just going to say it's the first 3 discs or so of the whole set. It's that long. There's that much material on it. Yeah. But yeah, that is that. It's a solid debut. I highly recommend listening to it. But I like jazz rock and fusion and blues and all kinds of stuff that I like in it. Just, I played trombone. I'm very biased. I love horns, especially brass ones. But yeah, I do like the woodwinds and stuff, which we'll see more of. Actually, the sax player plays all the woodwind stuff going forward. But yeah, great stuff. Solo debut, really good. Musicianship is ridiculous. Yeah, they could do a lot back then. They were young. This is at the time when labels were kind of willing to give people a shot who, even 2 years earlier and a year earlier, would never have signed. Thank God they did, and they got to do their own thing. Their albums were albums. They weren't just throwaway songs. They you know, things. A lot of things went together. They had a purpose. They had themes. You know, like there's like a whole movement thing in two. There's a couple of little mini things in that. Yeah, solid debut. I could just imagine what people's reactions were who liked that kind of thing. Like, oh wow, you know, this is being played in front of their ears. Yeah, just very solid for debut. I never really heard it all the way through headphones like that. It was nice, very enjoyable to listen to. Just kind of nothing else was happening. I just had those in my ears. It just sounded great. But yeah, we'll move on next time to 1970 with Chicago 2, which I guess it's just called Chicago, but I will call it Chicago 2 and call it Chicago, I think. But yeah, then it'll just be Chicago, whatever. I'll work on that, how I want to title them for Rick, my boss, who uploads them. But I want to get a number, a sequence going so it all matches up. Yeah, if the album has a title, I will give it and the number, probably. That's what I will do. Most likely. But I know, obviously, I guess, originally it was Chicago 3 would do it the first time they Roman numeral, but I will Roman numeral and name these two albums coming, this one and the next one, just to keep that all consistent and nothing, the way it all kind of matches up with the others. But I think that'll do it for now. I will see you guys next time in another video.